With pitchers starting to come back from the IL, someone's going to be the odd man out in this rotation. Is it Nick Pivetta? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and today we see the triumphant return of James Paxton. He may be starting the game as you're watching this video. Garrett Whitlock is only a couple days behind him, and Cutter Crawford's only a couple of days behind Whitlock. Basically, what I'm saying is within the next week or two, there are going to be 8 potential starters for this Red Sox rotation. Now, obviously, Cutter Crawford will probably be the guy who goes into the bullpen as opposed to the rotation, but still, in the next couple of weeks, we're probably looking at 7 starters for at maximum 6 spots, or more likely 5 spots in the rotation. So someone's gonna have to move from the rotation to the Red Sox bullpen. One of the rumors going around right now is that guy's going to be Nick Pivetta. So what we're gonna do in today's video is we're gonna examine Nick Pivetta's case. We're gonna talk about why he may deserve to be in this rotation, why he may deserve to be in the bullpen, and we're ultimately going to try to come to some conclusion as to what the Red Sox could do with Nick Pivetta with this surplus of starters. But before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. So why is Nick Pivetta being singled out right now as the guy who could move from the rotation to the bullpen? Well, this rumor actually kind of started way back before the season even began, before spring training even began, and while the team never commented on this, a lot of the Red Sox analysts spoke about the Red Sox rotation being too crowded to begin the year, and a lot of those guys were saying there was a possibility that with this rotation, Nick Pivetta may be the odd man out. It was something that Nick Pivetta really took personally and actually confronted one of the people who had said that when spring training began. Now, luckily for Nick, due to the magnitude of injuries in this Red Sox rotation, he was able to secure a spot as a starter on this team to begin the year. He was given a chance to prove in, hey, I belong in this Red Sox rotation. So how did he do with that opportunity? Well, since opening day, compared to every other starter currently on this Red Sox team, Nick Pivetta has the 3rd highest ERA, sitting at 6.23. That is trailing only Chris Sale and Corey Kluber. He has the 2nd highest FIP, sitting at 5.79. He does have 2nd highest K rate. Well, technically 2nd highest is actually tied for 3rd highest with Brian Bayo with a 9.3 K per 9, trailing only Chris Sale. But at the same time too, he has the highest walk rate on the team right now for starters with a 3.9 walk per 9. And finally, he is tied for the 2nd worst ERA plus in this Red Sox rotation at 74 ERA plus, which is 26% below league average production. This tells us 2 things. 1, Nick Pivetta has been well below league average this year, and 2, this Red Sox rotation has been well below consistent to start the year off. 2 things that we already kind of knew of. But is this enough to prove to the Red Sox organization that, hey, I belong in this rotation? Well, he's not last in any categories, right? He hasn't been unequivocally the worst pitcher on this Red Sox team or in this Red Sox staff, but at the same time too, expectations for Nick Pivetta were a bit higher than this, and honestly, not much higher than this, but higher than this nonetheless, right? He was supposed to be that constant in this Red Sox rotation, the 5th guy in this rotation, the guy who we'd seen last year, who's going to take the ball every 5 days. He's going to be an average to slightly below average pitcher. He was going to eat innings, and he was going to get outs and keep the Red Sox in the game most starts, right? That was sort of the idea with Nick Pivetta. Well, right now he has the 2nd lowest innings pitched on the entire pitching staff right now for starters who are currently on this team, so that didn't work out either. And if you take a look at his advanced numbers, there are signs that Nick Pivetta should honestly be getting worse throughout the year as opposed to getting better. And what I'm talking about here is if we dive a little bit deeper into his statistics, right now he currently ranks in the 7th percentile in expected ERA. That's 11 percentiles lower than what he was at last year. His expected batting average is in the 15th percentile, which is 21 percentiles lower than what it was last year. His expected slugging's in the 6th percentile, which again is 11 spots lower than last year. He's getting hit harder than he was last year. He's in the 2nd percentile in hard hit percentage, 2 points lower than last year, and his barrel percentage is much lower than it was last year, 17 points lower actually in the second percentile. Basically what I'm saying here is that Nick Pivetta, when given the opportunity to be in this Red Sox starting rotation, has been hit harder than he has ever been hit in his entire career. Now, he is striking out more guys than he was last year, but it's still down from his 2021 numbers. His walk rate is up from last year, but again, still down from his 2021 numbers. And what we've been seeing from Nick Pivetta over the last 2 years is something you don't want to see from the fifth guy in your rotation, which is pretty steadily regression, right? The idea with the guy like Nick Pivetta is that he's going to stay steady. He's going to be a guy who you know what you're going to get from. So to see regression over the last 2 years isn't something to get super excited about. And when you're looking at this sort of problem the Red Sox have with the logjam in the rotation, one of the things the Red Sox need to take into consideration is ceilings, right? How good could a guy possibly be? Or more specifically, when you compare everyone in this rotation to James Paxton's ceiling right now, coming back from not playing for 2 years, who is the odd man out? And right now, when you're looking at Nick Pivetta's metrics, he's regressed over the last 2 years. His ceiling has gotten lower than it has been in his entire career. And when you're talking about comparing his ceiling to James Paxton's ceiling, James Paxton has the higher ceiling right now. Now, normally when you think of a rotation arm, a guy who is constantly starting games for this Red Sox team, going to the bullpen, you think of it as a bit of a demotion, right? From going to starting to relieving. But in the case of Nick Pivetta, this could actually be where he's more effective. We've seen him be effective in a relief role for this Red Sox team in really, really big moments, right? He was the guy who got the final out in the last inning of the 2021 season to get us into the postseason. He was the guy in 2021 who came in late in a game during the Rays series and went 4 innings, allowing no runs, striking out 7, and only allowing 3 total hits to allow the Red Sox to go on and win that game. So he has been effective out of the bullpen before, and he would be able to kind of air out all of his stuff. And actually, I think it would make him a more effective pitcher being in this Red Sox bullpen. On top of that, too, he also has bullpen experience with the Philadelphia Phillies, which we will talk more about in a second. But for right now, the problem with Nick Pivetta going into the bullpen for this Red Sox team is that it might check him out completely mentally from this game. And what I mean by that is we talked about his reaction to the, not even rumors, just slight analysis of this Red Sox rotation, right? He went up and he actually confronted the guy who said that, hey, Nick Pivetta might be the odd man out of this rotation. On top of that, too, this season, and specifically this last start, Nick Pivetta has been asked about it. He was asked about, hey, look, after this start in Atlanta, do you consider these starts sort of auditions to stay in this rotation? The first answer to that question was, I have no idea what that question means. He then went on to completely answer that question. He said, quote, I have started for this team my entire career. I'm going to continue to do that, and by the end of the year, I'm going to continue to do that, and the next year and the year on that. Basically, what he is saying is that he does not want to be a reliever. He wants to be a starter. He believes that he is a starter. Now, obviously, what you say to the media and what you're actually thinking are most of the time two completely different things. Most people aren't 100% honest with how they're feeling with the media. One, because they want to say the right thing, and two, because obviously those kind of things are sort of personal, right? But for Nick Pivetta to come out and say this, one, does not look good to fans, right? Obviously, him fighting for a chance to stay in this rotation after all the metrics we went through is not a great look. Two, this cannot have gone over well in the Red Sox locker room, right? Obviously, he's sort of saying that, I don't care if I've been bad. I deserve this spot, basically, right? That's kind of what he's saying in this interview. That can't have gone over well. And two, if you aren't feeling that way, why would you say that to the media? Either way, it was not exactly the greatest response from Nick Pivetta. And this is not the first time we've seen him sort of mentally check out going to the bullpen. In Philadelphia, he had a similar situation where on the Phillies, he was moved from the rotation to the bullpen. And the Phillies actually stated out loud that they believe that when Nick Pivetta went to the bullpen, he mentally checked out, and that's why his on-field performance has been less than ideal. Now, if Nick Pivetta can get over the mental hump, I really do think he'd be a genuinely decent reliever. The problem is, it's not really up to Nick, is it? It's up to his performance, and it's up to the team to make this decision. And if I'm the one making the decision right now, Nick Pivetta, in my opinion, hasn't done enough to prove that he deserves to be in a regular role for this Red Sox team, at least as a starter, right? Again, as a bullpen arm, I think he'd be really effective, but as a starter, like we talked about, he has some of the lowest standard statistics on this Red Sox team. And if you take a look at his advanced metrics, it doesn't look like it's going to get better throughout the season. In fact, it looks like it's going to regress even more. This is a guy who, to me, seems like the clear man out of this Red Sox rotation. But Alex Cora did confirm that Nick Pivetta is going to get his next start. Maybe they're giving him one more opportunity to really drastically change his approach on the mound, or really drastically change his mental approach to where he fits in with this Red Sox team before they make their ultimate decision. So they're going with a 6-man rotation for at least a week. We don't know exactly how long it's going to be, but eventually they're going to have to crunch that number down to 5 without sort of being a detriment to this Red Sox bullpen. And in my opinion, yeah, Nick Pivetta feels like the odd man out right now, but that's just my opinion. So after all of these sort of facts laid out on the table, what do you think? Do you think Nick Pivetta deserves to be in this rotation still when the roster crunch comes down? Do you think he's the guy who gets moved to the bullpen? Do you think the Red Sox don't do either and they find a way to trade him? What do you think the Red Sox are going to do with Nick Pivetta in the next coming days? Let me know all your thoughts on Nick Pivetta in the rotation in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.